It is 6:01. It's Tuesday evening, June the 27th, 2023. And I'd like to call this meeting of the Montgomery City Council into session at this time. Thank you all for tuning in from the outside and those that could be here for taking an interest in our city. I ask that you, what are those things called? Smartphones. There you go. You silence your smartphones so we can avoid interruption to our meeting. We appreciate that. And we do have a quorum. However, Ms. Cheryl Fox was not able to be with us this evening. So with that, I invite you to stand for the pledge preceded by the invocation given by Mr. Stan Donaldson.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for another opportunity to serve the citizens of the city of Montgomery. We ask you, Lord, to give us wisdom and understanding so that we can discern the things that are best for this city and the people in it. We thank you, Lord, that there's nobody but you, Father, that can give us the kind of guidance that we need to serve this city well. We thank you, Father, for this council, for the city government, and all our citizens. I ask that you pray for blessings over them and everything they do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. The American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, under the Visitor Citizens Forum, do we have anyone signed up? I didn't receive anything. Okay, so we'll go on to the consent agenda. We have items 1, 2, 3, and 4. What is the council's pleasure in those items? Take them together.
I have a question on 1 and I have a question on 4.
Okay?
Same.
And yours?
Yes.
So we have 2 with questions there, so we'll go into item 1, approval of the following. A, City Council meeting minutes 5/23/23. B, City Council meeting minutes 6/13/23.
On the minutes, it says inaudible multiple voices.
Yes.
Is that because we're talking over each other?
There
Is
was
that,
a few instances, especially on with the 523 and the other meeting. I can hear all sorts of voices going on and the public at the same time, and it's impossible to decipher exactly what someone was saying.
I was making sure that it wasn't something wrong with the microphones?
No, it was actually when we were in discussions here for the most part. These microphones that you have there pick up everything, even the rustling of paper over the top of them.
The clicking of pins.
Yeah.
Pins, everything.
Pen clicking.
And I'm just clicking away.
Does that open us up to liability having that on there? Just because somebody might think that we're discussing something that's not being in the minutes? Curious.
No, as long as the formal action that the governing body takes is recorded in the meeting minutes, we're okay.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I have a question on
Others?
number 1
Okay.
as well. On page 5, item 1, paragraph 4, the minutes don't accurately reflect what was stated by Mr. Harry. I went today minute by minute, word by word, and the minutes,
Excuse me, Sarah.
he stated he was surprised.
Which
Oh, it's so Steve Harry with, so the page 5, item 1,
But which can, oh, yeah, but 1A or 1B minutes?
it's
A.
It's A.
Okay.
So at minute 15:37, he stated he was surprised he didn't have to go to city first because he knows the regulation and he knows he needed to come to council to explain the business before the application went to TABC, and Ms. Brow told him no, and it doesn't have to pass first at council. She said, no, it doesn't matter. Dave was there. He was surprised that the process had changed. That part is not reflected in the minutes because it's looking like Mr. Harry didn't do his job, where in fact, what he stated is opposite, that he knew that he should have signed the application, and then it was to be sent, it was supposed to come here for approval, then gets to TABC, and the minutes don't reflect that.
What I will do, since I was not here for that meeting, I'll go back and listen to that
Okay.
motion and correct them.
The good thing about it, it's not too terribly long because I was able to do it myself, but yeah, that would be great to have in there because I don't read it that way.
Absolutely. I'll go back and make sure they're taken verbatim.
Thank you. And then on page 13, item 1, 10th paragraph, I know that's about two-thirds of the way down. It states Ms. Vu responded they did not have, however, they were allowed to review plans, and it says the country, and it should say county.
Okay?
So it's about two-thirds of the way down.
Not country. Okay.
And that's all I have for item 1.
Any others?
So do we table the minutes then until they're updated?
No, you have, it's your pleasure what you do, but you do have the option of approving them with those changes that you have indicated as part of your motion.
What's the council's pleasure there? We've done those types of things before, passed with certain conditions. Or if you want to table it, you can.
I move to table the minutes, the approval of city council meeting minutes from 5/23/2023.
We have a motion by Sarah. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second is by Carol. The motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. Any other discussion? We're looking at item 1A. All in favor of tabling item 1A, city council meeting minutes, 5/23/23. Do we go through this all the time? Is there a date that has to be to it, or a statement?
By next council meeting?
By next council
I should be able to
meeting?
get them to you
Yeah.
next council meeting. no problem.
Yeah.
Just place them on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Okay,
You don't
so
have to-
can we agree that we're tabling this until the next meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, everyone agreed to that, so all in favor of doing that, say yes.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. And we will table item 1 until the next meeting. So any questions on 1B, city council meeting minutes, 6/13/23?
No, sir.
That was part of 6/13/23, wasn't it?
That
No,
was
5/23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go to item 4 then and take questions for that? Or should we take 2 and 3? Okay, all right, so item 4, were there questions there?
I did not have a question, I had a comment. Thank you for itemizing and not having a miscellaneous line item on there.
That did
Thank
help,
you.
that was very helpful.
Very helpful.
All right, so we have items 2, 3, and 4 perhaps, by consent.
I can ask one question on 1B. Do you guys want to act on 1B, the 6:13 minutes?
Did we want to what?
Do you want to act on those? Do you want to?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we do need to individually do that, right?
Yeah, 1B and then 2, 3, and 4.
You can do it.
We can do 2,
You can
3,
do
and
it
4
one of
together.
two ways. You can, run down an approval of each one of those, or you can just approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Let's do that. So we're on item 1B, city council meeting minutes, 6/13/23.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion by Carol,
Second.
second by Casey. Motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item 1B, city council meeting minutes, 6/13/23, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. And we will approve the meeting minutes for 6/13/23 as presented. Items 2, 3, and 4. Need a motion to take
I'll
items 2,
make a
3, and 4?
motion to approve consent agenda items 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
Motion by Carol, requires a second.
I second.
Second is by Casey. Motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, items 2, 3, and 4, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone
Yes.
opposed, say no. And we will approve consent agenda items 2, 3, and 4. Item 5, consideration and possible action on calling a public hearing for Lone Star Estates partial replat number 1.
Mayor and council, this, as the memo states, lots 10, 11, and 12 are what are affected in here. They both have existing homes on them, and the owner of lots 10 and 11 is selling a portion of their property to the owner of lot 12. What it does is give the owner of lot 12 some access to the pond or the lake from there, and so to do that, they need to replat. The first step in this is calling a public hearing, and you can see where the schedule lays out there below it. But the action that we're requesting is to call a public hearing for July the 25th at 6 p.m. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have on it.
So there wasn't a map or anything showing the plat redo? So I'm not sure what I'm looking at.
Right. So that comes after your public hearing. Again, this is like a rezoning request. It's, there is no deliberation or action to be taken other than to call a public hearing. Again, it affects only 3 of the 12 to 15 lots that are in the subdivision.
So, but we'll get more details before that, obviously, right?
Right. To actually take action on the plat, you're going to have to see the plat and see what.
That's why we have a month there, actually, there. All right? So we're just calling a public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Does it go to P&Z also, or
Yes,
just to
ma'am.
council
Yes,
on
Yes,
the
ma'am. The P&Z
replat?
on next Wednesday will take action on the replat.
Okay. I'm sorry, Byron.
That's okay. And that's the normal order
Yes, sir.
that we did it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And to answer why I just said next Wednesday, because the 4th is next Tuesday.
4th is
So the
Tuesday.
Planning and Zoning Commission had rescheduled their meeting to the 5th, the day after the 4th of July.
Okay. And I have no objections. That's my birthday, but y'all go ahead and meet. All right. With that said, entertain a motion. Number 5.
Make a motion to call a public hearing for July 25th, 2023 at 6 p.m. concerning the consideration of possible, of the replatting of Lone Star Estates partial replat number 1.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Stan. Motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approval of number 5 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. And we will approve public hearing for July 5th, 2023 at 6 o'clock for item 5 as stated. Item 6, consideration and possible action on approval of construction plans for Montgomery Bend, Section 1, development number 2203.
Mr. Chris Ross.
Good evening. So these are the construction plans, obviously for Montgomery Bend Section 1, which is the Pulte development up on 1097. So your normal process is that the construction plans for the sections are approved by council. These also went to planning and zoning on June the 6th and were approved at their meeting for the development. The overall drainage plan has also been approved. The mass grading and clearing has been approved. This is just for the delivery of the first third of the section. So I'm not going to go through detail, but to hit some of the high notes of things that have been mentioned in the past. My sheets are cut off on sheet 9 of their plan set. You'll see their overall layout and their lighting. So we talked about lighting in the past. Their lighting plan is shown on here. We had them add additional notes regarding coordination with the power companies, that if the electrical company wants a change to the plan, has to be done via variance and approval of the city. So the lighting is shown. Also, one thing new to this plan set that we haven't had before is we've created a city standard sign detail. So all of the street signs will be the black powder coated poles to match the rest of the city. And the only other thing to note on this plan set, and as we've kind of been discussing for a while, there is one main entrance off of 1097 and then a secondary all-weather access road only for emergency use if needed.
So just for clarification, you just clarified for 1097, because that first map is atrocious. I couldn't
Yes.
understand where in the world this was.
Yeah,
Right.
hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the one just south of 1097 that borders Terra Vista.
Right. And so, and I texted you about it. So the elevation maps are hard to see, but at the entry of this, there's a bridge.
Correct.
Is that our bridge?
That will be a public street, so it's in a box culvert over the creek. The creek that goes under 1097, so their entrance road has a large box culvert that carries that creek underneath their road.
And which creek is that?
That, I don't know if that is a name to it. It's a tributary of Atkins Creek. I don't believe it's a named stream.
Is that, excuse me, is that property in a floodway or a floodplain?
No,
No?
no.
Does it back up to the Atkins Creek?
There's a strip of land between, so Steve Bowen owns what would be a future section of Waterstone between them and Atkins Creek. So they actually have an easement from Steve Bowen to take their drainage across his property into.
How much space is there?
I don't have the exact number in front of me. It's 10-ish acres between, enough to get kind of one street with houses on both sides down it. So that is not part of this development.
Yeah, I'm still having a hard time picturing. I know where it is. I looked it up on my city map, but it's still hard to picture with the developments that are there. Because I can't, the topography maps on here, you can't. You see a chunk. You don't get to see the whole area.
Right.
Which is what I assumed the first map was for. But
Right, they have a separate overall grading plan that's not part of this plan set that's been previously approved. So this is only for the infrastructure to serve the first third about of the lots.
How many homes?
Total is 308. I don't have the plat in front of me, but this is roughly a third of that.
So let's talk about the obvious. What about traffic? You're talking now 650 cars, roughly, at that one spot.
Right, yeah.
Have
And
we gone
that's,
to the county to ask for help and see if we can
That's-
widen the east side of the lake looks beautiful with 5 lanes. The west side is still 2 lane with all this.
that's all dictated by TxDOT, so they're adding a turn lane.
Texas or is that county?
TxDOT, 1097. And so,
Walker took credit for that.
yeah, 1097 is a TxDOT road. And so they're getting a TxDOT permit
That's
and adding a turn lane.
yeah.
all right. So then let's talk about TxDOT. Does TxDOT know this is coming in?
Yes,
And
yes.
is there plans?
To add a turn lane into the development.
In what year of our Lord?
That is part of their approval for their driveway connection.
Okay.
So for the driveway connection, if we approve this driveway connection, pardon me.
You're not, so the driveway,
Well-
correct. So this is everything else, the driveway is a separate plan set.
Sure.
Being approved by TxDOT.
Okay.
That's, besides some obviously concerns, drainage, as in where it's going to, some previous concerns that I've sensed and had myself, reservations about it. We've had some prospective developments on the north end. We've gone through this deal about one way in, one way out. And we've gone through this deal about blind hills and turns and those types of things, and limitations and expansions, not to mention who's going to do the work in 2080 or whatever. So, I don't know where we're at on this, but I'm just trying to get the perception of the community and some of the concerns overall. And I don't know, I just asked council to.
So to address the kind of the drainage question, so they have a large detention pond in the back of the property, so all their drainage goes through it. So they're detaining and mitigating their flow into the creek. They could have elected or worked to get direct outfall into the creek, but they elected to put in the pond and instead mitigate their flow to pre-development, which is what they've done. And then regarding, the traffic interpretation, that's, again, TxDOT traffic study, TxDOT approval for the driveway. Getting only one is due to spacing and the amount of frontage they have, which is why adding the turn lane to help. So there's not that coming around the blind corner and someone stopped trying to turn it.
Random question. Possibility we could have a field trip to go look at this, because I can't put it in my mind where this is, where the 10 acres is, where that Adkins Creek flood issue is, all of that.
Or at least, maybe we need to table it and
Well, that's what I'm saying,
offer
yeah.
opportunities for us to individually or collectively go.
Because these
look at
maps don't help me at all, sorry.
Right, and again, the overall development as a whole was gone through the feasibility study process and the preliminary plating process, and it's odd that, and something that we're discussing, that construction plans come to council for approval, as, they're not, it's not planning, it's not the plating, it's not any of the items that set that up. But yeah, so, and you'll see this again at final plat, so there's still the next stages for council. If you approve this tonight, or if not, you have the final plat approval of the development. That hasn't been done yet. You also have acceptance of the infrastructure once it's constructed and ready to be turned over to the city.
Right, but once it's constructed and ready to turn over, it's a little late,
Right,
Yeah.
so.
Are these the 45-foot lots that council
Correct.
approved
correct.
late last year, early this year?
We'll put the AC behind the house.
Okay,
This is where the side lot setback had the caveat that all appurtenances cannot be within that 5-foot setback.
I'd like to make a motion to table item number 6 on the agenda to be reconsidered when personally, I'd like to have eyes on it on a field trip, whatever you want to call that, to look exactly where this is, since I wasn't on council prior to seeing all those plans.
okay, we have a motion to table item 6. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Stan. Motion's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of tabling item 6 until we can get further information for the item? All in favor of tabling, say yes.
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 Would this be able to be on the next agenda?
We can definitely throw together maps and aerial exhibits and have that to you all within a couple days.
I have some
As far
questions
as-
about the bridge, right?
Yeah.
We have bridge issues all over this. Our tiny little town
Right.
has more bridge issues than,
Right.
it's insane. So I'm really concerned about another bridge, right? That is on a flood creek. It's a flood creek. It doesn't run water unless it rains. And now we're going to disturb it, and we're going to put a bridge on it, which we've tried several times and it's failed, right? So I'm kind of concerned about another bridge that we're responsible for.
And I would say that this is more similar to the large culverts going in Town Creek Crossing off of Buffalo Springs. So, fully enclosed structures, there's no, it's solid at the bottom with the wing walls and walls on it versus, a true bridge structure. But I understand your concern.
Okay, so I think we've articulated that we have some questions and we need some time. And we were progressing towards a vote. I believe I heard Casey, yes,
Yes.
and I heard Sarah, yes, and I heard Stan.
And I asked the question, would it be on the next agenda?
And the
And did I
answer
get
was-
that answer?
Are you good with
Yes.
yes? Okay.
So the field trip will be sometime between now and the next agenda?
We can make that one.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm just happy with some good aerial photos of what we're looking at, or a larger map so we can see
Right.
context.
Sure.
All right, and so that vote is yes for Carol, and the motion carries 4-0 for item 6 to be tabled until the next meeting, pending further investigation of matters as spoken. Item 7, acceptance of certification of additional sales and use tax to pay debt services.
Mayor and Council, I'll take the opportunity to introduce our interim finance director, Mr. Carl Curry.
Hello. If you have any questions on this, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
No, sir, I asked your question before the meeting started, and I guess I can reiterate. I just wanted clarification on the form, because it was not clear to me on what, let me get to the page.
So
The debt service
basically,
fund
Yeah.
and the general fund?
Yeah, so in the recommendation, it shows that we don't, but it actually looks, the way the form is filled out, and it's just the wording of the form, it looks like we do, so I just need a clarification of that, and he provided that, so I'm
and
good.
so what you're approving here is a certification that I've signed, which effectively states that we do not use the sales tax for debt service. And that's what you're accepting. And I agree, it is a confusing form. It's issued by the state comptroller's office.
Enough said.
Should we say by design?
There you go. Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to accept the certification form as presented.
Motion is by Casey. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll take Sarah. I heard that first. Motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item 7 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. And we will approve item 7 as stated. Thank you, sir. Item 8, consideration and possible action authorizing the city administrator to approve expenses for roof replacement and repairs at Fernland Park.
Mike McElroy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have the item in front of you. It's pretty cut and dry. We budgeted $50,000 this year to do these repairs based on a previous quote that we had received. The contractor that we're recommending is the contractor that was recommended by Sam Houston Museum. Whenever we had them come out and look at it with us and give us their assessment. So that's what we're asking for. Any questions on it?
No, sir.
Did this item go before the board of Fernland Park?
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I just remembered there was a board for them.
Somewhat. I mean, there is, but they're, admittedly, by Mike Newman, they're not very, I don't want to say existent, but they're not doing a lot. They're more than happy with us spending whatever money we want to on the place. They did know that the roof was going to be replaced this year, though.
So is this just normal maintenance? Did it come to fruition through normal maintenance or some weather event?
It's time.
Just
They're wooden shingles, and it's just, they come off one at a time slowly over the years, and we get up there and patch it however we can, but it's just reached the point that it needs a complete replacement. One of them does. One of them is still, is okay with doing some minor repairs on it, about $1,200 worth, but the other one needs a complete replacement. It's getting, you walk in there and you can see daylight anywhere you look.
We get any kind of roof guarantee?
They provide a 2-year warranty with what they do.
Did we go out to bid or we called people to get pricing?
Yeah, we requested quotes. From
When do we go out to bid? When is that like posted for RFQs?
After 50,000.
After 50,000 that we want to spend, not what potentially the bid would be.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on the wording on that. I'm not.
It's expenditures greater than $50,000.
They have to go out to bid per
Correct.
state,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
And we had received this quote from this company last year in the budgeting process, and they told me they would hold to it.
I was going to ask you, is the pricing the same?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Actually verified as recently as Thursday, whenever I was building this. So they are expecting or hoping for the approval, but the price is good.
I remember that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to authorize the city administrator to approve the expenditures for the replacement of the wooden shingle roof and repairs on another building at Fernland Park in the amount of $49,718.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion is by Casey, second is by Stan. The motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item 8 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. And we will approve item 8 as stated. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Item 9, consideration and possible action on a recommendation of award for bids received for the 2023 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project.
All right, good evening again. Starting on page 92 of your packets. Looking at page 94, sorry, don't go back to 92. We did receive bids on June 6th at City Hall for the 2023 rehab project. As a reminder, this is sanitary sewer repairs, basically in the center of town, so it covers majority between the downtown area, outside of McGowan, which was done as a previous project, all through 149, this area, the older portion of town. So this was as a result of a cleaning and televising project turned into the repairs that were done. So the project was bid on June 6th. As I mentioned, we received 4 bidders. The low bid was Cruise Tech Inc. You have $837,528 for their amount plus alternate. So we bid the project with an alternate bid, so a base bid and an alternate, which was at a priority 1, priority 2 repairs. The priority 1 repairs was the base bid, which came in at $721. The alternate was up to $837 to get that additional work. It's all repairs that needed to be done, and based on the timeline, it's spread over 2 fiscal years. So we have $500,000 in this year's budget, and then next year we'll have the delta, because this project will go until February or so of next year. One big caveat to make. So starting on page 92, you'll see a memo from us regarding the bid amounts. So that 837 includes a quantity bus that we had on our sheets for pavement. So pavement is being paid on a square yard price. The price that they provided was per square yard. The quantity that we estimated was in square feet. We had a conversion error. And so when it was bid, that causes the bids to be $132,000 higher than what we actually expect to do. So it's a unit price contract. So again, they're only paid for the square yards of work actually completed. It is an estimate. So when you factor that in, the amount that we actually expect the project to come in at completion is around $705,000 to do both the base repairs, the alternate repairs, and then accounting for the extra pavement that won't be needed during the project.
Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
Cruise Tech, have they done work in the city before?
They have. That is the contractor who did the downtown rehab project that's finishing up now. And I think at your next meeting, we'll have certificate of acceptance for that project. So we've worked with them before. They've worked in the city before as recently as last month.
I was just making sure they weren't the ones that were on Baja or that
No.
left us and all of that.
This
chaos.
is
I was like, I know that name, but I just want to make sure.
Correct. This is the same contractor who did the downtown rehab
Okay.
project.
So,
Right.
Okay.
We had no issues with them. There was some site restoration that came up during, but they have since fixed that and
Okay.
addressed their issues.
I actually Googled them when I went through it first, and they have good business reviews, so.
Yeah, we've worked with them a lot.
Yeah.
They're kind of, with these type of projects, there's really 3 or 4 main contractors we see, and this is one of them. So it's not an unknown face to the city or to us.
All right, so part of the project is this year. The
This
rest
fiscal year,
of
correct.
23.
Correct. So,
And in the budget is the 500,000.
correct.
All right.
And so the next fiscal year, we'll have the delta from the coverage to cover the full contract amount. We went over this, so, we bid this a couple weeks ago. We've been going back and forth with Gary and Dave and Mike, just getting over the same page, making sure from a budget standpoint, do we need to have the total amount in the budget? And the recommendation is to just, based on what we have in the budget for what's going to be spent this fiscal year. So when we look at the timeline, assuming that it's awarded tonight, we'll be in contracts and they probably won't get started with construction until first part of August. So, by the time we see a pay estimate, and especially, 3/4 of the work completed will be into the next fiscal year.
Yep.
So this 837,528 is not an absolute, or it won't go above that.
It is a unit price contract.
Right.
So
But we'll pay for what we use, obviously.
Exactly. So what we expect based on the corrected bid amounts is the 705,031.
Yeah, okay.
And again, it's unit price. So if the biggest, obviously the factor in here was the pavement. And that's work underneath the street. If they get in there and the pipe is broken, they need to go back 6 feet because it's brittle instead of 7 feet or 5 feet. That'll affect it.
Just didn't want this to have 2 commas in it, and then we have to budget more than the 500K next year
Correct.
for that delta.
Correct. And there's limitations on how much can be change ordered into.
Okay.
Right.
One other question was, I know we talked about it when we did the budget for it, but what sections of street are exactly?
So we can send out a map, and we'll include that map in our next engineering report that kind of keeps track of the progress, because it's repairs, everything from kind of Worsham, Old Plantersville area to 149 at the sewer plant to 149 at 1097, and kind of all throughout the middle of the city.
Right. So I guess my concern is that, can we choose what they do first?
Yeah. So it was not, yes and no. We can definitely, we get a schedule from the contractor, we can provide, guidance on where to start and how to prioritize the repairs. As far as it wasn't bid with you have to start in this phase. As we did flagship, we said you have to do this phase, this phase, this phase, and work your way down. So it wasn't bid that specific, but what they'll typically do is they'll go through, they'll do all the digging up repairs first. So they'll send their digging crew out, anything that's excavation, they'll cover all that back up, and then they'll do the lining repairs, which is a trenchless rehabilitation method. They usually do that after, because sometimes we'll have a dig and a line on top of it, a liner on top of it. So that's their typical process, but we'll get a construction schedule from them, and what we require and what's required in the bid is they do door hangers, they provide a weekly schedule, so we know what areas of the city they're working on. That's shared with Public Works and front office, so if anyone calls in, they know where they're supposed to be.
So my big concern for if in the middle of downtown is that we are not there digging up the streets in December.
That is done. So that work was bid separately and is the project that will have completion at the next meeting. So the only work, and Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the only real downtown work might be along Klepper, but everything really kind of south of Klepper, from Prairie to 149 to 105, those repair works were done with the downtown rehabilitation project.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want a bunch of liability holes dug in the ground when there's Christmas parade.
Correct. Yeah, the next project downtown is the Borderland replacement project, which it's kind of in a holding pattern with the downtown improvements. So as soon as the downtown improvements is ready to move forward, that construction will proceed right before it or concurrently. So they rip up the street once, and then the improvements project is coming over the top. So that's, again, trying to stay out of the downtown area as much as possible.
Cool. Very good.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion for number 9.
Make a motion to accept number 9 as presented.
Motion's by Sarah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second's by Stan. The motion's debatable. Amendment requires majority vote. All in favor of approving item 9 as stated, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. And we will approve item 9 as stated. Thank you, sir. Departmental reports, item 10, sales tax report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. All right, if I can direct your attention to the June 2023 sales and use tax report. Well, that's the cover page. You had 5,877 active taxpayers on this confidentiality report. Of June of 2022, you had 2,154 taxpayers. And then for June, you had 2,305, bringing your average up to 2,318, and a 7% increase over June of 2022. On the page after that will be your sales tax allocations to your top 25 for the 12-month. And so you have McCoy's, Kroger, and Chick-fil-A. And then at the bottom, your Panda, AutoZone, and Ransom's. And then your page after that will be your June 2023. And I'll discuss this again as far as the comparison to June of 2022. You've noticed that you had a dip, about 14% decrease in last year's over this year. And so I'll discuss the differences. And so for June of 2023, you had McCoy's, Chick-fil-A, and Google at the top, and then Fubo and Amazon at the bottom. That'd be about 45%. The top 25 are contributing about 45% of your total sales allocations. And 73 businesses contributing 1,000 or more are contributing about 70% of your total allocations. The page after that will be a comparison of June 2023 to May of 2023. And then say quarterly filer versus non-quarterly filer. So the page after that will be your summary page. In June 2023, you received $319,648.21, and in June of 2022 was at $371,794.81. And so the big difference between that right now is your McCoy's. Your McCoy's contributed about half of what it contributed last year that it did this year.
Wow.
And so also the another one is that your Kroger is on your list as second in June of 2022, and this year it contributed about 3 times more than it contributed in June of 2022, but it contributed that in May, just last month.
Is that because the prices have shot up?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
inflation.
Good reason for that.
Slowed down, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Building
But I'm just saying the pricing at Kroger, we're collecting more because the price of groceries.
Well, the sales tax increases when your price goes up.
That's what I'm
so,
saying, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I think it's interesting Home Depot is in there.
Yes, I was actually going to point out that as well. In addition to your K. Havenen, Builders First Source, Coburn, and Frontier Technology were all part of your top 25 in June 2022. And now some are still contributing, but they're way further down, actually less than 1,000. And then also your Uncle Bob's Barbecue was a part of June of 2022, and it's not on this one.
Make sure I heard you. So you said we collected in this month half of what we collect for McCoy's, half of what we collected
And
the whole entire last year.
And I actually listed at the 2021, and so McCoy's actually still about 10K up from 2021's contribution for 2022. So it's, I don't know if there was a huge development boost or something in 2022, but that contributed. There was a lot of construction companies that popped up onto your confidentiality report for that. And so that's just
Anticipation of financing rates, it's a trickle-down domino effect, and when people know that it's not going to be friendly to build, they naturally slow down building, and then they build fast up front, and then it's just kind of a natural.
And 2x4s are $20 a piece.
Yeah.
It just gets really crazy. And so nothing too alarming or anything like that. The Kroger's and everything was contributing. They're just contributing to different months now, and it's not. You're only $52,000 down, I believe, over last year. And so with the Kroger and the McCoy's building kind of taking a switch and a hit, really, but it's still. And so for me on that, to your fiscal year of 2023, you're at $3.5 million, about 72% of budget. And at the very bottom, you have your averages of $379,000 for the calendar year of 2023. And the page after that will be your monthly allocations graphs back to 2017, and then just reflecting that 319K. The page after that will be your previous year by month variance, and then just reflecting the negative 14. The page after that will be your yearly allocations page, and then just what you're at fiscal year for 3.5. Your page after that will be your median trends, and then followed with your NAICS codes. And so I just completed another drive out for your city, and there are some business entities that, one that comes to mind is it's Slice of Amish, the cheese store. They have their sales and use tax ID is from a completely different district, and so I explained to her that I'll be reporting that to the comptroller so that they can get another location ID out, because they're losing, City of Montgomery is losing sales tax over that. Six Shooters is another one that I'm trying to have trouble getting hold of her. She has other location sales tax IDs, and so once I get that, I can put that into the comptroller as well. And then there's another one that I have questions. He just kind of sent me away because it was a welding company, the Apache Wells, next to the Guyo classic cars. And I believe they should have some kind of sales tax associated with some of their metal fabrications. I need to look up the code again so that I can reference that to the comptroller, and then we can get started on investigating that as well.
You know, Six Shooter, I think the mothership is in Magnolia. I don't know if you
Yes,
know that,
yeah.
like, so
And
she's
it's
there.
also the same with the jewelry place in the same building as well.
Correct.
Yes. And so, and I'll just be reporting those to the comptroller, and then they'll have the accounts examiner look at that and expedite it however they see fit. We'll get that online. And if there's any money to be recovered after that, once the sales tax is online, and then I'll actually seek out to see, because it's 2%, they should be contributing that, and so I'll be looking for
Absolutely.
money in the rears. And so that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions or concerns, anything you need to look me into, or
No, just continue to keep an eye on things, and then advise us going into these planning meetings and whatnot, so we can have projections as close as we can. We're going to have to obviously, and I think staff-wise and community-wise, we're getting priorities. We know that we've got to kind of look at priorities and look hard at it, and the economic situation, and things have slowed down.
And you're still expanding, the Popeyes isn't open yet, and your
Right.
Dutch Brothers and stuff, they're still, I expect to see Popeyes on the top 25.
Give me the phone number of discount,
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Discount, please. I mean, because that is a huge blessing, and we're just waiting, and everything's done, and they're just pending.
They reached out again regarding.
They did?
Today. So,
Okay.
Okay.
So I do have one question. On the allocations page, are we, is that based off our fiscal year or a calendar year?
Allocations page for,
For your yearly allocations here, item 10,
oh yes, with the green line, that's your fiscal year.
fiscal years.
And the green line is your budget line. And you're just shy of 75%, you have 3 months left, and so I think you'll be able to, there's a nice little bump and a positive turnout for the next 3 months, it should be, you'll be able to hit your budget. How are you, sir?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Item number 11, Police and Code Enforcement Report. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have the reports there in front of you. I think somebody had some questions for code enforcement. She's here.
Oh, me? Yeah. Well, I was looking at the code enforcement, the nature of the calls, and I noticed on their open records request, and there were 3 violations. I just kind of wondered how that happened. I just don't understand that yet, how somebody can have a code violation on an open records request.
So on an open records request, the general public can request anything that we have that's available to them. And in that open records request, they asked if, sometimes it's students, they'll say in the last 60 days, how many violations have been issued and how many violations are still open. Sometimes it's tall weeds and grass, which our code covers 40 inches, and that's pretty high. So there really aren't any 40-inch code violations for weeds and grass here in the city of Montgomery. So typically I'll send the message to them saying we don't have any open code violations for tall weeds and grass. They'll sometimes ask about any other code violations like building permits. I don't do any kind of building permit code violations. That would have to be with the building inspector, so I think Nikki gets it on her side for open records requests. But that's why I get the open records request, because of whatever nuisance violations I might have out there in the city of Montgomery.
Okay.
So right now, no formal nuisance violations where I actually send a letter calling it a nuisance. Right now, everything is, I do it by a personal visit or an email or a phone call. And that's how I address any kind of nuisance violations at this time.
Good, thank you.
If a property hasn't been approved by city council to go from residential to commercial, and the business is still being conducted, is that a code violation?
While it's being, I guess, looked at, as far as I know, typically that stays any kind of code violation. When I actually go out to a location and I ask them what they're doing at the location, and they state that they're still operating as a residence, there isn't anything for me to be able to say, no, you're not. I have to take it for the word saying, yes, this residence is being occupied as a single-family dwelling. Until some point where I actually see that there's a commercial operation out of a residential, there isn't anything that I can say that I have seen a code violation.
Well, so that first, the Spirit of Texas Financial right here, 2 buildings over, that's still according to the appraisal district, under a residential, but there's a business, clearly with business signage that's taking place in there.
Right.
And I couldn't find anything in our records that state that we gave them commercial zoning. So is that a code violation that needs to be addressed?
As far as I know, that is commercially zoned. It's
Okay.
the use of the building
Okay.
that might have changed, and that maybe would have been a change of certificate of occupancy.
So it was a private residence, and now it's a business, and so then they don't need to go through the zoning process to be rezoned to commercial?
It's zoned commercial, but the use of the building is, or possibly was, residential.
Okay.
Maybe it has changed, and maybe there's a certificate, a new certificate of occupancy that has already been issued for the building. But like I said, I believe that that house was always zoned commercial. So when the use is residential, it's technically non-conforming until it changes to commercial, then you can't go back to residential.
And our code does allow for single-family purposes in commercial districts, but to her point, infer that I believe it was always zoned commercial. But I talked to Stan about this a few weeks ago, and we, looked at the map, and it is zoned commercial.
I know Bob was always charged commercial rates on his water meter. When he was there.
So possibly it's the certificate of occupancy you're looking for.
Certificate of occupancy is really what is needed, right?
So,
Probably a change of certificate
Change
of
in how it's
occupancy.
used.
Yes.
so you're saying
Not
for
zoned.
that, so now that it's no longer, it's zone commercial, it's no longer being used for residential, so then needs to be a CO administered or given or applied for?
A new certificate of occupancy.
So then, is there that for that property?
I could check to see if there has been a new certificate of occupancy given to it.
Do I need to make a records request, or?
Oh, no, I would just research
Okay.
and see if there's been a new certificate of occupancy assigned to that
So
building.
then, if the same thing is happening on Liberty Street with Mr. Ballew's property that's been here, it's been a hot topic, and it's residential, well, you can't prove that, I mean, it's clear that it's being used for business, but would he need to get a different CO? I know he's up for a special use permit coming soon.
Right.
But, so we should just wait for that to, or does he need to get a CO and then also that permit?
I would say that a certificate of occupancy should be
Okay.
addressed because it is a residential structure at this time.
Yeah.
But
So,
if they're
do
going
you
to
know-
use it for commercial, then a new certificate of occupancy should follow.
Do you know if there has been one?
I have not seen
Can I
one.
make that official record?
No. No, I have not seen one.
Yeah, okay.
I think just, again, advice in your gathering that stay on top of that issue. It is a very big concern. And the council, we have two members living on one side of it. I've got a 6-foot fence. I don't even like grass growing through my fence, to be honest with you, on the other side. So there's some real concerns there. Please stay on top of that. Make sure it's done correctly and there's no assumptions made. With that said, also, we've got different types of legislative deals that are going to affect these very things about whether somebody can do the old mother-in-law apartment deal. Every now and then I'll get a call about prospective zoning considerations and whether they can do a B&B, whether they can do special events. It's complicated, Dave. I mean, and it is, right? The whole thing can get complex. Just as a staff, stay on top of this and make sure that we're considering all these things and we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's going forward.
So for code enforcement, I guess I'm just requesting clarification. Are you wanting me to keep an eye out for changes in occupancy now?
I would like for
Is
you to
that-
make some records
Okay.
of what you notice and keep those records and have that available for council and staff to, keep an eye on things. And, but I do say this, as soon as I found out about a concern, within hours, I had a full detailed report, and I appreciate that from Chief and you as well. You were on top of it. But again, it's complex. People perceive certain things going on. I don't want to perceive something, I want to know. And it's difficult to know in 24 to 48 hours if there's some sort of a drastic change, you know, or somebody's having a family reunion, for all we know. But the main thing is to get to the point where we're really documenting what is happening and then make decisions based on what really is and try to avoid a lot of the speculation. Your details and your footwork can help this staff and governing body going forward. So thank you for your work.
So I have a question for Dave, and it might help answer some questions. So if a property is zoned commercial and they were living in it, right, it was a residential house, is there a law that states that they have to have a change of occupancy to then do business from that building?
Yes.
Okay, so there's your code question, right?
But the building code says that
Okay,
change
so-
of, tenancy should require a new CO.
Right. So we don't have to dig hard, we don't have to ask a lot of questions, we just need to go ask him for his CO or provide one or find one, and there's your answer to, do you need to keep on top of it? The answer is, we just need to find out if he has one. If he doesn't have one, he's
Right.
broke the code.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12, municipal court report.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. You have a court report in front of you for May. The citations were 128, and the revenue was $21,007.77 for May 2023. Do you have any questions for the municipal court? Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Appreciate
You
you.
get by easy.
Yep. Item 13, public works report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have the report in front of you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions associated with the report.
On there you have secured letters on each of the walls at City Hall. What does that mean?
That's the flower bed walls out here.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of them fell off.
Okay. And then you have replaced light bulbs a couple times under building facility. It's in there like twice. And then I just didn't know, do you do it every time every time you do that? Or is it just a general statement about what has been done? Did you replace 2 light bulbs? That's why it's listed twice?
No, well, we have a monthly check on light bulbs, so
Yeah.
at different facilities. So I'm looking for the actual lines that you're talking about. My gut tells me that it's 2 different facilities.
Yeah.
Okay, inside all facilities?
Yeah, so it's like at the top, yeah. Complete monthly light bulb check at all facilities, and then down below it says,
Yeah, it looks like a duplicate. It looks like one's a check and then one's actually listing replaced. That needs to come out.
okay. Just curious. And then there were 2 ceremonial flags for newly elected officials. What does that mean? Where did they fly? What were they?
Here at City Hall. So whenever, if you've noticed any outgoing council members over the last handful of years have received a flag on their way out, what we do is when the day that council member is sworn in, we fly a flag for X amount of minutes here at City Hall. We store it, label it for who it's for, and then bring that to admin, and
We're going to get a flag out.
so it's not just any generic flag that you're getting whenever that happens.
I mean, it's an
actually-
expensive flag. Hand sewn. Yeah.
You can do it with the feds too, where you can pay for a flag, they'll fly it over the
Capitol or whatever.
national line, whatever.
Same thing.
And Ted Cruz will sign
Sure.
it, whoever you want to sign it will sign it.
Yeah.
and then
I didn't know we did this here. That's why I was like, what is this?
I didn't even.
And
Yeah, all the flags that have gone out like that over the last handful of years, they've actually flown on the day of swearing in. And we just hold them for however many years that is.
I understand that there was an event at the community center and the AC wasn't working and you were out of town. Who is your backup when that happens?
Eric Stanifer, our foreman.
Does he get your phone or how does that work?
Well, they called him. Somebody got a hold of him.
Okay.
PD they have both of our phones. H2O has both of our phones for.
Do we know what happened? I know it was like 95 degrees inside there. It was really-
From what I was told when I got back, actually what he texted me and told me is that the doors were open and it just couldn't keep up because the doors were left open.
So to answer more directly,
Oh yeah, Dave was involved with that.
yeah, do that. You know, played AC, you know, kind of diagnostician, if that's the word, but had gone up there to talk. So we heard from the PD. So Eric had called me and I said, look, you know, I'm right here in town. You know, let me go see what's happening. There were, you know, a couple hundred folks up there. It was extremely hot that day. The doors, you know, again, were opening and closing. So I saw TJ Wilkerson was there. And so he saw me and he came over and talked to me, asked me what I was doing. I told him I was, you know, looking at the AC. And the first thing he said is, man, this building is full of people. We're opening the doors, we're going in and out. You know, that said, I know that they followed up and kind of where I left, you know, the situation was they got the AC guy, you know, to come, you know, look at the unit. One of the units is a residential unit that's on there. There's 2 units on City Hall or on the community building. And I don't know if they found anything that was, you know, not working, but the resolution was after that event, the AC seems to be working fine.
Okay.
He didn't find anything that day.
I wouldn't imagine.
I had forgot that you were involved. I'd like to publicly thank Dave for saving the day.
Who is in charge of the mosquito spraying truck in town?
It's a contractor that we have that falls under Public Works budget.
Do you have a list of everywhere they go?
I have a good map. We actually changed it up this year. We added some areas that hadn't been covered before. But I do have a good map.
Is ours one?
It is.
The last I heard that mosquito truck was early spring. So is this a quarterly thing we should expect?
No, at this time it's a weekly thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it usually starts in late March, early April, and goes through the end of October.
Yeah, that was the last time, March or April, that I heard it. And it doesn't make a lot of noise, but
To my knowledge, it's not going in the subdivision by the high school. If it is, it's not working.
In the way,
So
I will verify with them. They have GPS on all their vehicles. So if we're ever in doubt on where they're at, they can provide us with, so if I'm hearing a doubt on where they're at, I mean, that's the only, we of course are not able to keep up with
And
where
I
they're at in the middle of the night.
guarantee you, it has not been on College Street in about 2 weeks.
Okay,
But I do hear him. I'm a light sleeper,
yeah.
and I hear him every time he comes by. And he has not been by in 2 weeks.
I'll check with them tomorrow and
So that,
ask.
we were like, well, maybe it's every 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, no, right now it's weekly.
Really?
wow.
No.
I don't tell them that they're doing it, Mike. I would really check on that.
I'll sure check on it.
He's not in town.
Okay,
He's somewhere else. Okay, thank you.
you bet.
Mike, last time you had a agenda item regarding the pumps, and you were going to get the rental amount for the pumps.
Yep.
I haven't seen those. Have you sent those out, or did you get that?
We got it, actually, we just got it 2 days ago.
Okay.
Wasn't when we finalized it. We're looking at roughly, even numbers, 30 grand is what we're looking at for rental pumps over there. So what we're waiting on right now is the quote for the repairs to the GST at Water Plant 2 to see how quick that can be done. If we get that back up and running, then that'll make us feel a little better. But yeah, we're not going to pull the trigger on 30 grand that quick for rental pumps. We did want to see what it would, you know, what we were looking like on it, but
Gosh, that almost makes sense to go with the brand new one then. If you take in that rental plus the rebuilt and all, if you look at those pricing.
the problem is timing. So, yeah, so we're going with a new one. That's what y'all approved, was going with new equipment. But getting the new equipment actually takes longer than repairing the equipment that's there. So we were just looking at a rental for the time being until the equipment comes in to see if that was a legitimate option. But for 30 grand for a couple of months, we're not. We're definitely not pulling the trigger on it right now. We're waiting to see what the GST repairs looks like for water plant 2 and see if that's the route that we're going to try to jump on quick.
Okay.
Mike, you and I have talked quite a bit the last few days about the storm damage or whatever, and we did lose quite a bit at Cedar Park. Is there any other area in which we lost a significant amount, I would say, as far as city property?
Not city property. Cedar Break was
it.
Yeah.
Now, did you see the big limb at Knight's Engineering Building? There's a huge limb that's down. It's on the roof.
On the roof.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Okay.
tomorrow is actually, so I've got a guy out hurt, and then I've had a guy out on vacation that last week that turned into sick time this week. He actually just came back after lunch today. So tomorrow is our first day to dedicate storm cleanup
I
all day
should just go
long.
move it, because I don't know if it was going to hurt it content more, or it's leaning.
We think that we can get everything that's around, not counting Cedar Break, but everything else around town, we think we can get it in a full day if we're able to get a full day in on it. It's just the other stuff never stops rolling in. So we've had our 2 crew leaders they're pretty wore out and ready to get some help in here.
Sure.
In fact, we took them out to lunch today just to thank them for, being stuck with, being the ones doing everything.
It seems like everybody is bringing things to the street.
Yes, and Eric's driving around, every day and just keeping a watch on that, keeping a running list so that he can translate that over to the guys so they know where to go to get things picked up.
Because
We'll keep
even
running with that.
today, I saw some people.
Yeah, we originally put out 2 weeks on that, but we'll run with that however long we need to make sure everything gets picked up.
Is there an update from your events lady? I didn't see anything in your...
She is not my events lady anymore. She's under admin. She's an admin now. So I have no updates for you.
When did that happen?
Emails.
Email last week.
Gary sent us
an email.
Got that. Okay. I'll check. You did?
So,
Thank-
I have one other question.
I-
Mike, concerning the preventive maintenance on like our sewage treatment and our cooling towers with the pumps and whatnot, do we have actual procedures for those preventive maintenance, like a written procedure?
Yeah, sure do.
Okay. Because I've had, one of our wonderful neighbors called me upset, so wanting to know if the procedures, if we actually had procedures.
Upset to what nature, or what caused them being upset?
He's pretty sure that that the maintenance isn't being done correctly
On what?
on the cooling towers and things like that.
Well, I mean, I'll 100%.
Well, we only have one neighbor that knows anything about our water system.
Yeah. No, we have a written procedure for everything that's monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually.
Okay.
And H2O can, not on the spot provide it, but they can sure provide anything that y'all might need if you like. But yes, there's definitely a PM program for it.
Well, I know there's a PM program, but as long as there's checking a box and having a written procedure that says, yes, we've done these things is different. So, and there's an actual procedure to do it.
Did we have any part in the new fence behind the Watershed Counseling Center?
The wood fence?
Yes.
No, sir. So we had just installed a new chain link fence with 3-strand barbed wire on the old sewer plant portion 3 to 4-ish months ago. But that was the property owner that installed the wood fence.
Okay, well, it looks nice.
It does.
Very attractive, isn't it?
Looks
Very
great.
nice.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had a part in it.
Now, when they originally cleared all that, they took out the tree line that originally bordered that with a mix of some old barbed wire in there. He took all that out and told us at the time that he would be eventually putting in a wood fence there to replace it. So, yeah, you're right. It looks nice.
I've got one, you might want to call it a little pet peeve, but my wife and I enjoy driving around the countryside and learning the area, the different roadways and things like that. But I've noticed that when I go out to like old Plantersville Road, take it out over to Dobbin or wherever, that there's no city limit sign we don't have any city limit signs on Old Plantersville. And I think I understand that ML isn't all in our city. Is there any way we could have some small, they don't have, we don't need big highway signs, but small signs that say that's Montgomery city limits?
We can, but they will be stolen. No doubt. I mean, we've had them, the one on Old Plantersville was stolen, the one on Lone Star Bend was stolen. They will come up missing.
You need to chisel them on a rock.
Especially Womack, or the one out on Old Plantersville, because there is nothing there. It's so, we've had the Womack Cemetery sign come up missing 3 times, I believe.
Oh, I see a lot of those. I see more cemetery signs than anything driving around here.
Yeah, they will come up missing. So, I mean, I've actually I've had that request come in before to put one out there, and it just, I don't see the need to keep spending money on a sign. I mean, if y'all would like that, that's something that we will definitely take care of. But just, it has to come with the understanding that it'll have to be replaced.
But do they just unbolt them and take the sign? Or
Yes, sir.
is there any way?
Unbolt them, they rip them off, they push the whole pole over. I mean, they make security hardware for them, but it's nothing that a good heavy-duty crescent wrench will take care of, just breaking the whole bracket off.
Did Arnett get a permit for that fence? Did we ask him to do that?
Nah,
Do you know?
nothing to do
All right.
with that.
I didn't know.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Item 14, utility operations report.
Evening, Mayor, evening, Council. This will be your May 2023 operations report. Page 2 will be your district alerts. We did have a low water pressure call from Water Plant 3. That was due when the contractor hit the main line last month. Also, the Public Works took care of it. Pressure was restored. Everything was good. And then on the 30th, control panel failure at lift station C. That was due to a bad phase monitor. We got a contractor out, replaced it, and it was back up and running that day. Page 3 will be your wastewater plant flow detail. The average daily flow for the month was 255,000 gallons a day. That's at 64% of your permitted value. And of course, you see it spikes whenever we get rain out here. Page 4 will be your discharge limitations. There are no excursions. All samples came back good. Page 5 is your pumpage report, or accountability report, sorry. Total was 12.743 million gallons. Sold 11.306 million. And with flushing, we accounted for 11.971 million gallons, which is 94% accountability. Next page is your running average for your groundwater production for wells 2, 3, and 4. And the last page will be your water accountability reports, the running average, which I believe are around 95% for the past 12, 13 months. Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions? All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 15, city engineers report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Starting from the top of our report on the capital projects, Flagship Boulevard Storm Sewer, we did receive and recommend payment of pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $36,380.70. This pay estimate really was just a startup pay estimate. The dates covered were about 1 day, which explains the language in here. The project is 1% complete by time and 7% complete by value. That was as of May 31st, the date of the pay estimate. Anybody who drives by Flagship knows that they're much more than 7% done at this point in time. As far as what has been done, so the project was broken down into 5 phases for them to complete in order. The first phase that they completed, the work is done and the concrete is curing at this time. The second phase, they did not end up actually needing to do any pavement replacement. They were able to replace the storm sewer without tearing up the road right around the curve. They're currently getting started on phase 3 of the project, and we are working with them to increase the traffic control in the area. We understand there's been some concerns, and so they are going to be increasing traffic control out there as well. A couple of photos in here showing the actual storm sewer installation itself, as well as some pavement backfilling. There was another photo that I wanted to include showing the pile of the concrete pipe next to a pile of the plastic pipe that was removed. It's a really interesting difference, just to see the quality difference and the increase that y'all are getting.
You can drive by there, and it was all out there the other day, and it was like, oh no.
Yes, so definitely an improvement going in the ground for y'all. The downtown sanitary sewer rehabilitation, we've mentioned it a couple of times this evening. We should have those final documents ready for y'all next meeting. They just finished addressing the last punch list item. We discussed the 2023 sanitary sewer rehab phase 1. Phase 2 of the project, to remind y'all that we split this up into 2 phases to allow phase 1 to keep on moving. Phase 2 is the pipe bursting portion, which includes going underneath 105 right outside of City Hall. And that design was submitted to TxDOT on June 5th, and we are waiting for comments to come back from TxDOT. Jumping down to the old Plannersville projects, we are expecting to finish up the water line design and submit that to the county for their review next month, and we're hoping to be finished with the force main design in July. The McCowan and waterline replacement project, we are also expecting to be complete with that design in July, but as mentioned earlier this meeting, that timing of bidding and construction will be coordinated with the above ground downtown improvements project to do it all at the same time and phase it out properly to minimize impact downtown. Our plan reviews are listed, so we've discussed Montgomery Bend. We did receive their Section 2 plans on June 13th and are proceeding with our review. Other big ones, the Texas and Beyond Plaza, we received revised plans back on June 16th, and we will be returning those this week. We had our plat reviews listed below. We discussed the Lone Star Estates earlier tonight. We are just waiting on the public hearings and kind of going through the routine of that before we're ready to sign the plat itself. Going down to page 4 of our report, the ongoing construction. Montgomery Bend is nearing completion of their mass grading, detention, and offsite utilities, and we are continuing to provide inspection services on that as well. Going into the general ongoing activities, I believe we mentioned it as well on the 105 in Buffalo Springs traffic signal. They're about 90% complete with that design. We've asked for a set of plans as it currently stands. We just asked for that yesterday, so haven't quite received that back yet. Item 4 on page 5 is the 15-year infrastructure plan. We have discussed the draft sanitary sewer analysis with the TORC, and we are planning to present the final version at your July 11th workshop and regular meeting. Lone Star Parkway Bridge repair, it's our understanding construction is scheduled to begin this week, and as requested, we are continuing to coordinate with the county and will provide updates as we receive them. And then Lone Star Parkway and Buffalo Springs intersection, it is our understanding that the county has ordered the signal equipment and is expecting to start construction in this fall. When the next page is just kind of a summary, more of a visual of all of the capital projects that we've got going on and the schedule that they follow to give you an idea of what to expect. And then the last page of our report, we haven't gone over this in detail, but as you all know, there's a lot going on in the city. And so the map on the last page of our report shows everything that is going on and the various stages that it's currently in. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Regarding that light and Lone Star, the $100,000 for the bridge, Alan, last meeting, I don't know if you got caught up with Alan, Caleb, but the way that the agreement read, looks like we are 100,000 plus, and he said that he would make sure that there was a letter of intention sent over. Do you know if that happened?
It did happen, and B.D. Griffin, the county attorney, confirmed in writing that the city's share is not to exceed
To exceed, okay.
$100,000, and I'll forward that to Gary.
Okay.
But he did confirm in writing.
Okay, just
Very
wanted to
good.
make sure, okay. And then, do you know, Dave, since you're here for Gary, if there was a resolution sent for Buffalo Springs and Lone Star Parkway?
No, ma'am, a resolution would have to come from the governing body.
I'm sorry?
The resolution would have to come from council.
Oh.
And
Okay.
so I will.
I guess we'll
circle
maybe on
back.
the next agenda then?
Right, so I'll
Okay.
circle back with Gary to ensure that we get that. You know, I do know that we are, working on, one, setting up, meetings with some other folks,
Right.
like the school district that may be
Yeah.
interested in, what that solution looks like, and then,
Okay.
from there, get a little buy-in from those folks, and then try and get in front of the county.
If I remember right, we were targeting next week
Right.
to make sure that we meet with the school, consolidate our efforts, get a couple of key politicians even, let me know, and I'll call them, and maybe they can be there with us, and just get as much authority there as we can, and let's lobby for what we know to be the best for our citizens. So that should happen next week.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
Very good. You're all to it?
Thank you.
All right, need a motion to approve departmental reports, items 10 through 15.
I'll make a motion to approve the departmental reports, item 10 through 15.
Motion's by Casey,
Second.
seconds by Carol. The motion's debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All in favor of approving the departmental reports, items 10 through 15, say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no, and we will approve the departmental reports, items 10 through 15. Executive session, adjourned into closed session in compliance with Section 551.01 ETSEQ, Texas Government Code to wit, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, Redbird Meadows Development Agreement. It is 7:23, and we are adjourned into executive session.
Hey there.
It is 8:26, and council is back into session from executive session, and there is no recommendations, no movements, correct?
No action.
All right, council inquiry?
When does Gary get back?
We'll be back in the morning.
I'm sorry?
In the morning?
In the
Okay.
morning, yeah, okay.
And the parade is Saturday in town? Yes?
9 o'clock?
4th of July parade, 9 o'clock?
Yes.
And VFW, everybody got their invite to
And so it
that?
has an RSVP, right? So everybody got that?
Oh, I threw mine
It's
away.
got a
All I
little
kept
card.
was this.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm not going
there's
to
a little card, it's
RSVP.
kind of hard. It's got,
I'm going, but I'm not going
Is,
to RSVP. He'll never get it in time with our
okay,
mail
so,
system.
Trivial Pursuit, when I met him the other day at his fundraising, Michael John Foy Day says he was the next mayor.
Where?
Here.
Michael
Now,
John Boyd?
he may, since this VFW is a connection of Willis Montgomery, he may have been speaking about Willis. Since none of the people I've asked remember, he goes by Foy. Foy Day, does that ring a bell? Anyway, nice fella, and they did their fundraiser, and so, yeah.
He said he was the mayor?
Yeah, I assumed he was talking about here, but since it's a Willis Montgomery, and y'all, I can tell by the look on your face, you're like, well, that was 1700 and something, or whatever. So,
How old
or
is the
1800
man?
something.
Right.
Yeah, he's 50s,
Oh, no.
60, somewhere in
He
there.
ain't been here.
Anyway,
No.
The question I texted you about the parade, or is there supposed to be council on it in the county
there is
parade or
no
anything?
provision for council. That window
Okay.
closed 2 weeks ago
Okay.
anyway to
Just
get
make sure I ain't
in.
gotta go be somewhere that.
No, I have a previous engagement for that portion of the morning anyway, so I couldn't be in it. But we also have coming up August 4th and 5th, TML, the state convention that has many helpful workshops. I highly recommend that. So I've already asked Nikki to send us a generic email to that effect. And what are the provisions possibly for spouse if you want to do that type of thing.
So I asked Gary about that a couple weeks ago, and he said he was going to look at the budget. Is this one the Round Rock one or San Antonio?
No, this is Galveston, Moody
South.
Park.
Oh, okay. Is it different?
This is something different.
Review the budget, there is enough.
Okay, good, okay.
Okay,
I hadn't heard back.
so she'll send out an email about this Moody Gardens, Galveston. Just kind of pencil in for now, August 4 and 5 is the date.
This is for a different one.
Yeah. There,
Sidebar, sorry.
we got that.
I was confused.
Yeah.
It can get confusing because they have so many different meetings and things. But this one is, and the reason I'm saying this is the one I like is because it's coming out fresh from legislation. You get that Q&A. So if you do about some questions and, some things that we've already faced that our laws about to change September and so forth going forward, and they may affect our decisions on the priorities and zoning practices and whatnot. So it's a good opportunity to physically be there with somebody that can tell you how it affects our
What's
cities.
the date that one is?
August 4 and 5, pencil
It's
it in.
in Galveston.
It's Galveston,
It's their
Moody Gardens.
annual TML
They have a nice little
meeting
social
for
thing that's
our-
available that you could do as well.
for our
kind of a
region,
cruise.
or
Yeah.
whatever you call it.
Right.
Kind of a
Region?
mini cruise.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
what they call it?
Yes, ma'am. Region 14.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little mini cruise in the Galveston Bay that you could take advantage of as well. Anyway, that's a side deal for that evening. All right. Anything else? All right, entertain a motion to dismiss.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Need a second?
Second?
Motion is second to dismiss. All in favor, say